My name is Kazakiel Ben Yisrael, and welcome to Voices of Our Fathers. Tonight's topic is the true Redeemer, and this is the second half of the second segment of that show. To my left is
Elder Shadaniah Ben Yisrael.
to my right. To my right,
Elder Aharon Ben Israel. Shalom.
Shalom.
So,
As we were talking in the first segment, we were discussing the true Redeemer, and we were expounding on observations regarding Yahshua HaMashiach. And first off, I just want to start off saying that there's no redemption in Jesus. So you can't get confused and think that Yahshua and Jesus interchangeable like that. You must understand. I made a point in the last show about Israel being an instrumental part, an important part of redemption. And in being so, you got to understand that most of Israel is under a delusion. And Israel is being taught in different centers and different churches a lie. So therefore, this on the physical plane somewhat slows down, and the spiritual plane slows down this redemption process. Israel has to be brought into an understanding because, as I pointed out, they are part of this redemption. Turn to Matthew, the 15th chapter. And the reason I'm trying to break this down or point this out is because a lot of the viewing audience that goes to church, they may think that, okay, Jesus is the Redeemer. But you can't, okay, we're using Yahshua. You think, well, it's okay to use Jesus. No, there is no redemption in Jesus. Jesus is part of the destruction. Calling on that name is part of your destruction or your demise. So you have to get specific so that you won't go down the wrong path as to think that, well, it's okay. Well, we use it in church. And like I was saying, most of Israel is being taught the wrong thing. Let's deal with Matthew 15 for a quick moment. And I'm going to read one verse. And this is a statement made by Yahshua. Matthew 15:21. We are going to point out Yahshua's mission and who he dealt with specifically and what his focal was, okay? This is Matthew 15:21. Then Yahshua went from there and departed into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan, or Canaan, came out of the same borders and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Master, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a demon. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cried after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Yisrael. A lot of people don't understand that Yahshua, who you mistakenly called Jesus, came to get Israel on track.
That's right.
And being so, Israel is part of the same redemption. Yahshua knew that he had to get his people in alignment with the Father's word, so that after he left, that it would be put into motion. and thus the redemption process wouldn't be bogged down.
Right.
Because you got to understand that this whole thing encompasses Israel. There is no redemption without Yahshua or Israel. Those two things you must always understand.
Yeah, this is very profound what you said here in 24, where it says, "But he," referring to Yeshua, "answered and said." Now we're talking about what's written in red. Quote, "I was not sent except to."
That's right.
I was not sent except to. Yeshua came here on this earth, sent only to Israel,
That's right.
but for all mankind. Sent to Israel, but for all mankind.
That attaches themselves to
Israel.
That's right.
And accept or become
That's right.
believers.
That's right.
Because Israel, when the Spirit of Yah was poured out onto the Gentiles, Israel had to deliver to the world
That's right.
not only the information, which is the law, but they had to also deliver to the world the testimony, which is Yeshua.
That's right.
So there was two things Israel had to do. They had to teach the Gentile the word of Yah, and they had to give the Gentile Yeshua, because they certainly had never heard of him, because he didn't come to anyone but who? He just said, I was sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now we're talking about even a greater specific group here within a group, because he says he was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel.
That's right.
Which meant that there were many Israelites that were not lost.
That's right.
Like Nathaniel. Nathaniel was not lost. What did Yeshua say about Nathaniel? He said, here is a true Hebrew Israelite
Right.
in whom I find no guile.
Yeah.
So the only thing at this point Yeshua had to say to Nathaniel was, hi and bye.
Yeah.
Or how you doing? Because obviously Nathaniel was an upright and a righteous man. So he was a perfect man.
Same way John the Baptist.
Exactly. So that's profound, because a lot of people don't realize, like you said, this right here. He said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Yes, right.
And when he came, he did not go among the Gentiles.
No, he
not
didn't.
like that.
No, he didn't.
Not like that. He did on occasion here and there, but not like that. And not only that, the disciples themselves were told not to go.
That's right. See, in this situation, this Canaanite woman, she was considered a Gentile,
Right. Absolutely.
but she was trying to get a blessing, or trying to get
Right.
that grace in which she knew that he had.
Right.
But that's why he made that statement. Okay?
Right.
And when you read down, let me just read down a little bit. 25. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Master, help me. But he answered and said, it is not right to take the children's bread,
For to Israel.
that's right, to cast it to dogs. Okay? You understand? So you got to understand that he had to come twice hard.
Yeah.
Okay? And that statement is letting her know that this is not for you like that.
Right.
Okay?
Children's bread is information.
Right.
Right.
Now, in 27, and she said, true, Master, yet the dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. So she knew where she stood
Exactly.
in terms of even approaching him.
Exactly.
And then he said, then Yahshua answered, said to her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made well from that very hour. She believed on Yahshua that great.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because redemption comes through Yahshua, which also redemption comes through Yisrael.
Absolutely.
Those are things you must understand, and you can't dismiss either one.
And you can't dismiss that one word right there where Yeshua said, great is your faith.
Faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That is what got her over.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Of course.
This is what got her over. More so than anything.
Right.
This is what got her over.
Her faith. That's
Her
right.
faith.
That's right.
It's the same way with Peter.
Mm-hmm.
We often talk about the name.
Right.
And what Peter really was trying to say, I find that people really miss this.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And it makes no sense to me that you would seek out to try to find out who you are and call yourself an Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to turn around and use Baal
Mm-hmm.
for the name of your Savior.
Can't do it.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
make any
Don't
sense.
make any sense.
Can't do it.
Let's read what Peter say here. Let's turn to Acts, the 4th chapter,
Right.
verse 8. It says, then Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said to them, rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if we this day are judged for a good deed done to a helpless man, because Peter and them had healed the man,
That's right.
he said, let it be known to you all, and to all the people of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
that by the name of, he said, by the name of
Mm-hmm.
Yahshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, whom you crucified, whom Elohim raised from the dead. By him this man stands here before you whole. This is the stone which was rejected by the builders, which has become the chief cornerstone. Then he says, nor is there salvation in any other,
That's right.
for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved.
That's right.
Now, if you understand
Mm-hmm.
that these were Hebrews,
That's right. That's
there
right.
was no English.
That's right.
Throw this out your mind. There was no English.
That's right.
They spoke Hebrew. They never spoke the words Jesus Christ.
That's right. That's right,
right.
Elder. That's
They
right.
couldn't.
Right.
They were Hebrews. The name wasn't even invented.
That's right. That's
So
right.
all of you who keep putting your trust in Jesus, you got a problem. And the problem is not with us. You have a problem with the Father because, hey, turn back to Matthew. Now we know Matthew 1:1 says, the book of the genealogy of Yahshua. It's not Jesus, it's Yahshua,
Mm-hmm.
the son of David, the son of Abraham.
That's right.
These are Hebrews.
That's
These
right.
are not Englishmen.
That's right.
Exactly.
Or
And
Greeks.
Jesus is English.
Correct.
First of
Right.
all, because of the presence of the J.
That's
I know
right.
J's in Hebrew.
That's right.
I know J's in Greek. I know
Right.
J's in Latin.
That's right.
So it's only in what? English.
That's
So-
all.
When this was written, it wasn't written in English, was it?
No, it
No, it
was
wasn't.
not.
There was no English.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So if Peter told you that there is no salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved, it could not be Jesus.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
What a lot of people don't understand, Elder, is that anytime you study, you do research. You're supposed to do research. If you do research, that means you go back in time. The information that you read from or that you gather, it takes you back in time. So since it takes you back in time, the information that you gather up is supposed to be the truth or help it lead you to the truth
Right.
today. So when you do your anthological work on or research on the name Jesus, you can't help but find out, if you go back and use the right resources, you can't help but find out that this name, Jesus, has no connection.
That's right.
Because obviously the Redeemer was born a Hebrew.
That's right. In
He was
Bethlehem.
He was born a Hebrew. He was from the tribe of Yehuda. So if being born a Hebrew, he had a Hebrew name. I think most of the viewing audience will agree with that. He was born a Hebrew. Therefore, he had a Hebrew name.
Right.
Because in the culture that he lived in, they spoke Hebrew, they spoke Greek, and they spoke Latin.
And the angel came to Miriam and spoke to her in Hebrew.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So, since he was Hebrew, being born into a Hebrew culture, having a Hebrew name, when we look at this name here that's in Matthew, the first chapter, the first verse here, Jesus, we see ultimately that there is no connection between Jesus and the name that he was given, because we know that Yeshua was his name, because
That's
Yeshua is Hebrew.
That's right.
Correct.
Now, to be honest with you, a name in English that would be closer actually to the actual name of Yeshua, Hebrew. The English name that would be closer is Joshua. Joshua is a name that is much closer to the Hebrew name Yeshua than Jesus is.
Right.
But yet, Jesus is English. And Joshua is also English.
Right.
So my thing is, if Jesus is English and Joshua is English, how can they both be the same and they're not the same?
Correct.
Because Joshua is closer to the truth than Jesus is. If Joshua is closer to the truth than Jesus is, what does that make Jesus? What does that lead that name?
Son of Zeus.
Attribution, or you can attribute it to something else.
That's
Right.
right.
Because even in the name Joshua, Joshua, we still have the suffix shua.
That's right.
Shua, and shua means it's salvation.
Yeah.
Here, when you say Jesus, Sus don't mean salvation or is
Right.
salvation. Has
No.
nothing to do with anything.
Son of Zeus. That's what it means. Jesus.
That's right.
Because Greeks worship Zeus.
And the thing is, Elder, no one can debunk that.
Of course
No
not.
one can challenge that. No one can challenge that and show that that is incorrect. No one can show that Jesus was his true name. It's impossible because there is no connection. This, the closer you're going to come to this Jesus is Jesus, was in the Greek, which is the original, which is the root of what? Jesus.
Yeah.
That's as far as you're going to go. Because by the time the Greeks got through changing the name, and by the time the Latins changed the name, it meant nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know a lot of people are offended by that. Hey, but, you know, sorry. You haven't done your research.
All right.
See, everybody can tell you of the name, about the name, concerning the name, Jesus, but no one's done their research on it.
Amen.
No one can tell me the history of the name. Half the world out there that believe in Jesus cannot tell you where the name even came from. They can't even tell you the time period from which it came.
That's right.
They can't even tell you who was responsible for that name in the first place. That's right. Do you know all that? Because you got to know all that in order to know where the name comes from. If you don't know all of that, you need to be quiet. So my thing is, you need to study some more.
Matthew 1:21.
121.
It says, and she shall bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Yeshua.
Right.
Not Jesus,
Right.
Yeshua.
That's right.
For he will save his people from their sins.
That's right.
Also, Yeshua means what? Yah is
It's salvation.
salvation.
That's right.
The way you spell it in English,
A-H.
Y-A-H-S-H-U-A. Break it down into two parts, Yah and Shua.
That's
Yah refers to the Father, said, come in my Father's name, that I
That's
might
right.
glorify him, and glorify his name as well,
That's right.
Yah. And then you take the Shua, which is a suffix, and you put it together. You got Yah, Shua. So Yah is salvation.
Salvation.
Or Yah saves. Shua also means saves,
Right.
which has nothing to do with Jesus.
That's right.
You can't get a Jesus out of Yeshua, and you can't get a Yeshua out of Jesus.
And he was speaking of himself because
Absolutely.
what? He is the salvation of Yah
Absolutely.
to the world. The Redeemer that we're talking about.
He is the salvation of Yah. A great example of that was when Moshe was standing there with our people
Yeah.
right by the Yam Suf,
Yeah.
which is the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea,
Right.
the Sea of Reeds.
Right.
That Red Sea, that's bunk.
Bump. Yep.
It's called the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea. When he was standing there, what did Moses say to the people when he got ready, when Moshe got ready to do what the Father told him to do? To spread that water, divide that water up. Moshe said, stand back, and what? And watch the salvation of Yah.
That's right.
That's
That's
it.
right. Now I'm not gonna go into it like that because that's another show.
Yeah.
Okay, but we talked about that earlier. But that has everything to do with what you just said, Ola.
That's right.
Yah salvation.
In order for you to understand redemption, this is just one aspect of the redeeming or redemption. Turn to Matthew, the 24th chapter. Matthew 24.
Sounds like the end.
There are different aspects of this redemption, and this is one. Matthew 24 and 29.
Coming on the sun.
It says immediately after the tribulation of those days, and you got to understand tribulation which is brought about. Let me go. I'm sorry. Let's go up to 21, 21st verse.
24, 21.
Yeah, 24, 21 of Matthew.
All right.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. And except those days shall be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. The elect is Yisrael.
Okay.
For those who don't understand that, you got to go to, flip quickly to, I think, to Isaiah 45. So you can thumb back. But go there quickly. Isaiah 45 and 4. For Yaakov, my servant's sake, and Yisrael, mine elect. Okay?
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
Now,
Good.
flip back to Matthew. All right. It says, let me see, to 22nd, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Now, you got to understand, that's what we're talking about, that redemption in dealing with Israel. You have to attach yourself to Israel in order to be saved in the last days. You have to be attached to the elect. There is no getting around the Father's people or the Father's elect. That's where your redemption lie, because the truth will be with the children of Israel. Okay? Now, 23. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, there is Hamashiach, or there believe it not, for there shall arise false Christs or false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Now, that's telling you that even Israel, as closely as the Father has embraced them, the things that's going to be going on at this point in time, even Israel can be easily fooled. That's why it's very important to understand what's written and not get deceived and thinking that it's okay to deal with Jesus or Allah or thinking you can get in through these lying names. You got to understand, that's why we just went through that little segment with Yeshua, making you understand that you can't do the interchangeable thing or be creative and say, well, it's all right, he understands my heart. No, it's not. You got to understand that salvation comes through that one name, which Peter expounded on.
That's right.
So you got to have that clarity. You have to understand that that's imperative. Okay. 25. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven from the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels. He shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. gather his elect. It says nothing about gathering anybody outside of his elect. And we went back and saw in Isaiah who his elect was. So this is part of the redemption, because when you see Israel move, it would be in your best interest to move with Israel.
Yeah.
And I can't stress that enough. So you don't have 7, 8, 9, 10, 100 avenues to get back. You have to go the way in which is prescribed in Scripture, or what's written.
Turn.
Go ahead.
Turn to John, the 12th chapter.
John 12.
And we're going to start at verse 44. Then Yeshua cried out and said, "He who believes in me, believe not in me, but in him who sent me. And he who sees me, sees him who sent me. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believe in me should not abide in darkness. And if anyone hear my words and does not believe, I do not judge him. For I do not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my word has that which judges him. The word that I have spoken will judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting life. Therefore, whatever I speak, just as the Father has told me, so I speak. Didn't Moshe tell you that the Father was going to raise up somebody just like him?
That's right.
And was going to put his words in his mouth?
That's right there is a classical example.
He is.
Classical example.
And what did he say? He didn't come in the world to judge it, but to save it. At this time,
Absolutely. At this time.
that's the Redeemer
That's right.
that's being talked about
That's
here.
right.
That is profound, what you just read of.
But you don't understand that because you're looking for Jesus.
That's right.
That's the other Yeshua that Peter told you about, the one that they didn't tell you about. His name is Yeshua. You better get that name right.
And the thing, too, is that when we look in the book of Acts, when the scribes and the Pharisees and the powers that be, so to speak, were on the disciples
Yep.
about teaching in the name of Yeshua,
That's it.
they made a couple of points. They made 2 points. And the first point was they did not want not only just the disciples not to ever teach, preach in that name
That's
Right.
right.
ever again, them or anyone else.
That's right.
First point. But the second point was they wanted to blot out the name
That's
of
right.
Yeshua
That's it.
forever.
That was it.
There was 2 things that they wanted to do. Now my point here is mostly the fact that they wanted to blot out the name of Yeshua. They wanted to blot out that name.
That's right.
Now, being the powers that be, I'm sure they pretty much had a handle on successfully doing that, because they did.
That's right.
But here's the thing. if the name Jesus would have been his name,
That's right.
the world didn't do a very good job at it, because I assure you, you know, most people in the world have heard of the name Jesus.
That's
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Satan was in control of the world then. And Satan is still in control of the world
That's
today.
right.
That's right.
So Satan has not lost his grip.
Mm-hmm.
Satan has strengthened his grip,
Mm-hmm.
He has reinforced.
which means this to me. If they wanted to blot out the name, the Hebrew name,
Mm-hmm.
which was his true name, Yeshua, the world has done a great job of doing that. Because the name Yeshua is not a household name.
No, it's not.
That's right. But it's getting to be.
But the name Jesus is a household name.
That's right.
And if it's a household name, someone has been perpetuating or someone has been pushing this name.
That's right.
And it had to be who? The one who was in control of this world.
That's right.
Because he wants you to understand and know the phony name,
That's right.
That's right.
the untrue name.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's the name he wants you to know. That's why everybody knows it.
That's right.
Like I said, he's strengthened his grip. He hasn't gotten weaker. He's gotten stronger. The world is worse condition today than it was then.
Mm-hmm.
If the world is in a worse condition today than it was then, and everybody knows the name Jesus now, common sense will tell you that the wrong name is out.
That's right.
You think about that. Think about it.
That's right.
Just something for you to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So the name Yeshua is the name that they were really saying that they wanted to blot out. And the
That's
world
right.
has done a good job doing it because it's not a household name.
No, it's not.
And that's my point.
That's the reason for this show in terms of the redemption and the Redeemer, pointing out the minute things or the small things that you might overlook. Because it's been my experiences dealing with people and trying to show them different things that's written. And Eldad pointed this out earlier, how they miss small things, but really they're not small.
Easy to miss. Easy to
Right,
overlook.
but
They
that's
overlook it.
that's dynamic. When you get the name wrong, it may seem as though, okay, if you're reading, all right, and you point out and you say, well, these people were Hebrews,
Right.
and these people spoke Hebrew.
Right.
The English language didn't exist.
Right.
You have to be under a spell or extremely, out of sync with common sense to miss what has just been pointed out to you, and you revert back to what you've already, once that's been pointed out to you. So you have to understand, even though it may seem minute or small, it's dynamic. Because if you go through all the motions of trying to live chapter and verse, and then you do it and you ask for whatever in the name of a false god, that's going all down the drain. So the dynamics behind that is enormous, even though it may seem small.
I want to say something here real quick.
Go ahead.
And that is this. For all those out there in the viewing audience, if you just tune in to this program, fortunately but unfortunately, we just put you on the spot. If you listen to the words that we were saying, if you heard what we were saying and you understood what we were saying, we just put you on the spot. So now you're forced to study and to find out what the true name was. Why? Because we've given you the truth. And all those who hear the truth and do not seek the truth to find the truth and remain with a lie, guess what? You're in more trouble than the ones who never even heard this program.
That's right.
So we just put you on the spot.
That's right.
Nah.
Turn to John 16.
That's right. Now you got to study. You got no other choice.
Verse 5. This is Yeshua speaking. But now I go away to him who sent me, and none of you ask me, where are you going? Because I have said these things to you, sorrow has filled your hearts. He's talking to his disciples. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It's to your advantage that I go away. For if I do not go away, the Helper or the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, will not come to you. But if I depart, I will send him to you. Very important statement here. And when he has come, he will convict the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Of sin, because they do not believe in me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father and you see me no more. Of judgment, because the ruler of this world is judged. I have still many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. However, when he, the Spirit of truth, has come, he will guide you into all truth, buck dancers. For he will not speak of his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak, and he will tell you things to come. He will glorify me, Yeshua, for he will take of what is mine and declare it to you. All things of the Father, all things that the Father has are mine. Therefore I say that he will take of mine and declare it to you. Do you understand what he's saying to you? Speaking all that old gobbledygook, that's not the Spirit of truth. That's the spirit of error. Who comes in the name of Yeshua is the Spirit of truth.
That's right.
Huh? He sends them in his name. That's the only way it comes. It don't come no other way. How else can you be redeemed unless you know the Redeemer's name?
That's right.
Who are you looking for?
That's right.
You looking for the wrong one.
That's right.
That's right.
You looking for the Brillo man. And Yeshua is coming. You in trouble.
Right. Books say.
Elder?
Well, in everything that we've said, how many times have we read about, and whosoever shall call upon, in your books it says the name of the Lord. It says, and this is where I would like for the people who are viewing this program to start thinking about, like Kazakiel pointed out earlier. He pointed out there are small things here, but they're not small things.
That's right.
And what I'm pointing out, one of these small things is this. When it says, and whosoever shall call upon the name, encircle that word name, underline that word name. It says, name of the Lord, as it says in the book. The name. The name is important. You can't use any name. Can you say, can you say any name you want as long as the Father knows who you're talking about? Can you do that? Is every name the same? Does it mean the same thing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When you look at Hebrews, I believe it's in Hebrews, it talks about Yeshua's name. It says his name was greater than those of the spirits or anyone else. You see? So to get the name right is very important. It's not all about your heart, because most people don't understand how to apply the term, well, the Father knows my heart. Most people don't even know how to apply that term. They don't know when to apply it. You can't use it when you say the wrong name and say, well, he knows who I'm talking about. Because what's going on, if you are blessed positively, if you are positively blessed and you're using the wrong name, what's going on there is mercy.
Oh, yeah.
Got nothing to do with that name, and there's power in that name you're using. No. There's no power in God. There's no power in Jesus.
That's right.
There's no power in that.
In Lord.
There's no power in Lord. But there's all power in Yahweh. There's all power in Yeshua.
Yes,
And when the Father does bless you, when he is the one that truly blesses you, for anything, under any circumstance, for whatever matter, it has everything to do with mercy, and not because the name you're using has power. You got to start thinking in your head. You start using your head, people. That's what you got to know. And I'm giving it to you. You can take that, and you can hold on to that, and you can investigate that, and look at that, or you can just forget about that. But
forget about your salvation.
Which is something you really don't want to fool with.
That's right.
You got to understand that there's an intimacy between Yeshua and those in which he embraced or you embrace. Because, see, the embrace, or it comes from, the interaction comes when you embrace him or you embrace the Father. They embrace, Elohim embraces you back. So that's the intimacy. Now let's go to John 17th chapter, and you can see the intimacy, and Yeshua is breaking this down, letting you know that this is a family, or this is a gathering in which receives these benefits. Okay. John 17:1. These words spoke Yeshua and lifted up his eyes to Hashemayim, or heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come, glorify thy Son, that thy Son also may glorify thee, as thou hast given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life. Okay? To as many as thou hast given him. Given him. Okay? And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true El, and Yeshua HaMashiach, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou givest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was.
Back to Micah.
Right.
That's right.
5:2.
Right.
That's
and
right.
back to everlasting, as you talked about.
That's right. He said, I have manifested thy name unto the men whom thou gavest me out of the world. You see the intimacy there? This has nothing to do with the world as a whole, as him coming to save and you doing anything you want to do.
Right.
The Father giveth people to Yeshua.
That's
You know,
right.
it was profound what you just read right here.
Yeah.
Right here in 6.
Yeah.
It says, Yeshua says, Yeshua is so profound with his words.
Yeah.
Look what he says here, Elder. He says in 6, I have manifested your name.
That's right.
He didn't say, I am the Father manifested. Because
That's
a lot
right.
of, a lot of
That's
people
what a lot of people
believe
believe,
that
yeah.
Yeshua is the Father manifested.
No.
Now,
No.
here's the difference. Now,
Exactly.
okay, this is important. What is manifestation saying? Manifestation is saying that whatever the original is, or the form, what is the original, if we say that Yeshua was Yah manifested, that means that the Father was no longer in heaven.
That's
right.
right.
That meant that the Father was here on earth in the flesh. So in heaven being removed to flesh here on earth. The word that most people get confused with is the word, and this word, and the word that we look at is called revelation. So we have, on one hand we have manifestation, on the other hand we have revelation. Yeshua was Yah revelated.
Right.
Or he was a revelation of Yah.
That's right.
But at the same time, he was the manifestation of his name.
Right. Because he gave it.
Right.
He gave it
Right.
back here,
Right.
and Yeshua projected it.
Exactly.
And he came in the representation of it.
Exactly. So being revealed, being
That's right.
being the revelation of Yah simply meant that he was the Father being revealed to man, not manifested.
Fasted. That's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
Let's finish reading this. This is good reading.
That's right.
Let me read 6 again. I have manifested thy name unto the men whom thou gavest me out of the world. So that, like I say again, that's an intimacy. That's sanctification. That's set aside.
That's right.
Okay? Thine they were, and thou gavest them to me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things, whatever thou hast given me, are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. Now this is it in 9.
Yeah.
I pray for them. I pray for them.
Right.
I pray not for the world, but for them whom thou hast given me. That's the intimacy again.
Right.
For they are thine, and all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee. Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. This is some deep stuff.
Yes, it is.
12, while I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name.
Check it out.
Those that thou gavest me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture may be fulfilled.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it. Notice he say he kept them in his name.
Yep.
Do you understand that they was hiding the Father's name
Oh yeah. They tried
before? Right.
That's
to
right.
hide, hide the Father's name many times.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that.
No,
There's-
they don't.
There's power in that name.
Of course, that's why he told Pharaoh, I could have stretched out my hand. He said, but for this purpose, I raised you up.
That is the most profound, one of the most profound things
That's
in
right.
the book.
Hey,
Because he tells you the Father, you know, if you sit down and you think about this, if you think about Egypt and you think about all of the plagues of Egypt, if you think about all of the reasons why the reason why all of this was done, all of that stuff happened just because the Father wanted to establish his name.
That's
Now, if he
it.
goes through all of those changes, death, destruction,
Yeah.
if he goes through all of the 10 plagues, just to establish his name. And then he tells you that I established my name, and for my name's sake, I do this, and this is my name forever. Then that tells me that from that point on, in the future, we have to deal with the name. Now, if Yah tells you, Elder, what his name is, and establish his name with you, are you going to turn around and call him something else other than what he just gave you?
Of course not.
You would have a serious
serious
problem.
problem.
I would feel sorry for you.
Hey,
But
that's what they doing.
But my statement is this. This is what I want to say. When the Father established his name with Moshe, he established it with everyone.
everybody. That's it.
Everybody.
That's it.
So when you come behind that and call him something or give him another name and start talking about, oh, he's got many names,
Right.
well, you just made the Father out of a liar. Because he just established his name forever and told you one specific name.
He did that.
Which bogs down the redemption process.
Which says
Yeah.
exactly the exact opposite of what he just
right.
told you.
That's right.
Something wrong. You think about that. If that's wrong, you know, hey, I feel sorry for you.
In order to be redeemed, you have to know the name of the Son and the Father.
Absolutely.
You have to know in order for you to be bought back.
Exactly, because you have to know the right name
Right.
from whence the Redeemer comes, where
Right.
salvation comes.
That's right.
And you have to know the name of the Redeemer from which shed the blood
That's
for you
right.
to
That's
you
right.
to pray to the
That's
Father.
right.
That's
You know,
right.
in order for you to give praise to the Father, you got to know the name, and you got to know the name to give the praises too.
That's right.
That's right.
In order for you to pray a prayer to the Father, you got to know the name of your Redeemer, because it's through his blood and only his blood
That's right.
that anything comes to the Father. Okay,
That's
must
right.
must go through that blood, and if you receive anything from the Father, it has to be through him.
That's right.
So you got to know the name. So you got to know the name of the Father, and you got to know the name of the Redeemer.